Hi, it's Baz, filmmaker, dad, and the guy behind 20 Minute Gamer. Today I'm jumping into Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, a game I first played on the N64 back in the late 90s, back when even a blurry, fog-filled shooter could absolutely blow your mind. I adored it at the time, but it's one of those games I've only played in fragments since. Strangely, even though I always remember it as my favourite Turok game, I can never really recall much past the first level. Whether that's because I never actually got much further, or because the first stage made such a strong impression that eclipsed the rest, I'm not sure. This time I'm playing the Steam port from Nightdive Studios, the same people who remastered the first game, which I recently reviewed and really enjoyed. The first remaster surprised me by how modern and slick it felt without losing its 90s soul. That set my expectations pretty high for this one, and I'm curious to see whether they've given Turok 2 the same level of care. My mission today is to see just how far I can get in the first 20 minutes, and whether my rose-tinted N64 memories hold up under modern scrutiny.
Port of Adia. This once peaceful coastal village has been utterly destroyed by the Dinosaur army.
Story. The game doesn't waste much time on narrative exposition, but what's there is enough to set the stage. After a short cutscene, you're dropped into a world where dinosaurs have mutated into grotesque half-man, half-dinosaur hybrids. They aren't just big lizards, they're intelligent, armed, and clearly organised. They've invaded and seemingly taken control of a beautiful port city with grand stone buildings and an ancient Greek-inspired aesthetic. Their cruelty isn't subtle. You'll find children scattered around the level, clearly captured and enslaved, alongside strange beacons that you need to activate. The implication is that these mutants have brought the city to its knees, and you're the one person that's capable of stopping them. While it's not going to rival a modern cinematic narrative, I appreciate that Turok 2 goes beyond just here's a gun, go and shoot stuff. There's enough environmental storytelling and setup to give the action some purpose. It's not a plot that's going to pull you through the whole game on its own, but as an opening hook, it does the job. Score 7 out of 10. Controls. One of the standout things about Nightdive's remaster of the first Turok was how brilliantly it played for a game of its age. The movement, aiming, and general feel were smooth and modern without losing that classic 90s shooter energy. I'm pleased to say that the same is true here. From the moment you start moving, everything feels tight and responsive. Movement is quick but not floaty, aiming is precise, and switching weapons is snappy. Platforming, often a point of frustration in retro shooters, feels a little bit more forgiving than in the first game. I only died once from a fall, and that was entirely my fault for strolling off the edge of a cliff. The bow and arrow is a particular highlight, forcing you to account for arrow drop over distance, which makes long-range kills feel genuinely satisfying. Grenades, ammo pickups, and melee attacks all work intuitively, and I never felt like I was fighting the controls to make something happen. A nice addition I don't remember from the N64 version is subtle points of interest markers in the world, helping guide you through the labyrinth level design. That said, I still find myself lost at times, wishing for a proper map to help navigate the portals and branching corridors. Score 8 out of 10. Atmosphere. The first Turok started you in a jungle, a mysterious, almost lonely setting where the pacing allowed for quiet moments of exploration. In Turok 2, there's no gentle introduction. You're immediately in the middle of a war zone. Explosions rock the environment, enemies swarm from all directions, and the music drives you forward at a relentless pace. The level design does a great job of selling the idea that this is a city under siege, crumbling walls, burning wreckage, and distant structures under attack. It's chaotic and exciting, though for me, it loses a bit of the slow burn immersion from the first game's opening. That said, the action is so constant and engaging, I genuinely lost track of time. My 20 minutes vanished in what felt like half that, which is always a sign that the game has pulled me in completely. Score 7 out of 10. Music and sound. From an audio perspective, Turok 2 hits hard. The directional audio means you can hear enemies before you see them. Growls, footsteps, and shouts cutting through the chaos. Explosions echo realistically, weapons have satisfying impact, and environmental sounds like water rushing help sell the world. But the real star here, for me, is the music. The first level's track is one of my favourite pieces of video game ever. A high-energy cinematic piece that's been lodged in my head since the 90s. It's not just nostalgic, it's genuinely great game composition with subtle changes and builds that keep it fresh throughout the entire level. The soundtrack here isn't just background noise, it pushes you forward and makes you feel like the central figure in an action epic. Score 9 out of 10. Graphics and style. Nightdive's visual work here is absolutely spot on. Playing in 1080p with anti-aliasing and other visual tweaks, the game looks exactly how I remember it, which is to say better than it actually looked on the N64, no doubt. The environments shine in high resolution. The stone buildings, waterfalls and wide open plazas feel grand and alive in a way that's impressive for a game that's nearly 30 years old. The character models, especially Turok himself, have been sharpened up nicely, even if the woman you meet early on still looks a little awkward by today's standards. And then there's the violence. Fountains of blood erupting from enemies, splattering walls and floors. Bodies ragdoll forward even after you've killed them, adding a visceral sense of momentum to the combat. It's over the top in the best possible way, leaning fully into the pulp action aesthetic. Score, 9 out of 10. Gameplay. Like its predecessor, Turok 2 is unapologetically a 90s shooter at heart, but it layers in more variety. You're not just moving forward and blasting enemies, you're rescuing children, activating switches, collecting keys, and finding portals to new areas. The platforming is well integrated, with jumps and climbs breaking up the combat, though the lack of a clear map can make backtracking frustrating. Enemy variety is solid, with some foes pelting you from range while others rush in aggressively. The level design encourages you to constantly adjust your tactics, and there's a few jump scares actually where enemies surprise me from an unexpected angle. Weapon progression is satisfying too. I didn't manage to get my hands on some of the more legendary weapons from my childhood memories, but unlocking the explosive bow felt fantastic. The only real downside I found was not finishing the first level within my 20-minute window, but honestly, that's probably part of the charm for players who like a challenge. Score, 8 out of 10. The standout moment for me, well, it might sound a bit twisted, but my most memorable moment was getting the shotgun and using it at close range, watching enemies recoil from each blast, staggering until finally their head exploded in a glorious spray of blood. It's pure, unfiltered Turok, and it's exactly the kind of over-the-top payoff that made this game so unforgettable in the first place. So, is this worth 20 minutes? Absolutely it is. Even with my nostalgia-fueled expectations, Turok 2 more than held its own. The remaster is faithful but enhanced in all the right ways. Smoother controls, sharper visuals, and enough quality of life improvements to make it genuinely fun to play today. Whether you're revisiting it for nostalgia or trying it for the first time, this is the definitive way to experience Turok 2. And if you enjoy old school shooters with big levels, brutal weapons, and relentless action, this is an easy recommendation. Score, 8 out of 10. So did you play Turok 2 back on the N64? Do you remember hearing that first level music for the first time? And which weapon in the series was your favourite? It was the cerebral bore for me. Let me know down in the comments. And if you're anything like me, you don't have hours and hours to sink into every game. That's why I test whether a game can hook you in just those first 20 minutes. I'll see you on the next one.